There is no escaping the fact that in the world of fishing, size matters.
That's well clear of 100 pounds.
The bigger the catch, the greater the glory.
Now I have seen one 14 foot long down there.
What interests me, though, is when such giants are blamed for injuring or even killing people. It's easy to dismiss stories of river monsters as mere mumbo-jumbo, or write them off as fishermen's yarns. But there are sound scientific reasons to keep an open mind. Unlike land animals, aquatic creatures have their bodies supported by water. Gravity does not limit how massive they can become. For a fish, the critical factor is food. If there's enough of it, a fish will just keep on growing. It's what scientists call indeterminate growth. Your typical goldfish might not live for more than a few years, but some fish can live for over a century, time enough to pack on some serious weight. Most rivers are also murky. Beneath the surface, our eyes simply cannot see what is or isn't there. Often, the only way to find out is to cast a line into the water. It's a bit like asking a question. And the answer, when it comes, can sometimes just blow you away. Those teeth! It's just a murderous animal, this thing. Put simply, fish can, and sometimes do, grow huge. And muddy water is the perfect place to hide. So I don't automatically dismiss tales of monsters. A few years ago, in the Himalayas in North India, I heard about a man who'd vanished without a trace in a remote river. Supposedly, he'd been swallowed alive by a huge carnivorous beast. Subsequent investigation uncovered 2 other victims, one of them a young boy who, as he was dragged under, yelled, "Papa, something has grabbed me." His body was never found. Then, almost unbelievably, I was told about a creature that could literally inhale its victims.
It can suck you in from a distance. He says it's huge, it's vast, and it's black.
But in a region steeped in demons and spirits, how much of this could I really believe? The Kali River is named after the Hindu goddess of death and destruction. Just to reach the remote area where the attacks occurred, over 1,000 miles from the sea, involves a cramped, bone-jarring journey of several days.
If anything goes wrong, I'm a long way from help, but it's getting too late to turn back now.
Once you arrive, it's plain to see that the Kali can be every bit as treacherous as the goddess. Common sense suggests that those who died here might simply have drowned. Yet in each case, the water where the victim vanished was calm. And having already listened to several eyewitnesses, I now think I know the culprit's identity. My prime suspect is a sumo-sized catfish known as a goonch. But after fishing myself ragged for more than a month, I still don't have a shred of evidence for such a monster.
Something is investigating the bait. The big one. That is direct to a fish. It feels like the bottom, but it's actually a fish. Take this easy.
Be ready for it to run, though. It might well run. It's actually in very close. There's the trace. The fish is going to be visible very soon.
But this isn't what I think.
I've just got the mother of all turtles. The mother of all turtles.
This giant soft-shell turtle has bone-crunching jaws and a strike like a cobra.
Big stone here!
Even the locals had never seen one this size.
We need to cut the line. Blimey, O'Reilly.
The monster I'm after has to be bigger than this, at least as large as a person. By now, though, I'd figured out how my goonch was packing on so much weight. On the Kali, there is a regular and unusual supply of food. It is the Hindu custom to burn the dead on the banks of the river before consigning their remains to the waters. It's possible that the man-eater has grown fat on human corpses.
Sounds pretty gruesome, but of course it's just perfectly natural behaviour for a scavenger. The thing about these stories, though, is that this monster appears to have made this sinister quantum leap to feeding on living animals, including people.
Although I am now certain about this freshwater killer, to convince the outside world that it's not just some colourful fantasy, I need hard evidence. Stalking this predator has become an obsession. Looking back, though, I now realise that my judgment had become as threadbare as my t-shirt.
It's in the fast water. Something very powerful here. Try and relax and keep a bit calm. Gaining a tiny bit of line.
But giants weave their own magic, and I'd fallen under the spell of the goonch.
Right, the water is flowing this way now. I've got it into the water that's flowing this way.
Then, before I know it, I'm running out of ground, and the fish is about to escape downriver. The big problem here is that if it gets out of this pool, I won't be able to pull it back against the current.
This is very, very touch and go, very touch and go.
And if it gets away, all I've got is another fisherman's tale, which no one is going to believe.
I'm gonna have to go for a swim. Now! They do exist, the goonch do exist. That is a serious sized goonch.
That is as big as a person. It is bigger than a lot of people around here.
Weighing in at 161 pounds and bristling with vampire teeth, this certainly is a beast that could drag you to your death. My catch proves that there are monstrous fish here, big enough and fierce enough to kill a human. But the man-eater itself could be 3 feet longer and 3 times heavier than even this bruiser. If such a leviathan seems implausible in fresh water, then consider this. A Mekong giant catfish netted just a few years ago in Thailand. It measured 8 feet 10 inches and weighed 646 pounds. That's 1.5 times my length and nearly 4 times my weight. Incredibly, though, even this hulk has a rival, a creature said to grow more than twice the length of a man. It's a fish I've met before, and I still bear the scars of that painful encounter. I was in Brazil filming my first fishing show in 2002, helping a scientist net fish from one of his breeding ponds. I was wary because the fish in question have hard heads and an unnerving habit of bursting out of the water like missiles. When it came, the blow to my chest had been doubled up in pain. But a few inches higher and I wouldn't have a face. Later, a heart scan showed permanent muscle damage similar to that caused by the steering wheel in a car crash. Even now, my heart still has an irregular beat. So I'm nervous about a rematch with this monster, an armor-plated battering ram known as the Arapaima. It isn't long before I have the chance to confront my demons. Salted Arapaima meat was once a meal widely enjoyed in the Amazon. But since a ban on commercial fishing in Brazil, a few enterprising river people have started to farm them in pens like this to satisfy demand. Since they're about to haul one out for their own cooking pot, I decide to pitch in and overcome my fears, once and for all.
Oh, just trying on a fish! Just trying on a fish! This is a bit like a boxing ring. It's about the same size. There's 35 fish in here, nearly as big as I am.
Lá vai o arrastão, mete nessa posição.
Bom.
Vai levando pra lá, vai levando pra lá.
I'm just hoping lightning won't strike twice.
Ok, está agitando o chumbo agora. I'm walking forward, which means all the vulnerable bits of my body, a boxer would be covering them up. You French, eh?
De frente é melhor.
I'm afraid. And Jeremy is afraid, he's saying. I think that is fairly clear to see.
Tá beleza, tá beleza.
Okay, that's going well.
Vai começar a pular.
Right, they're going to start jumping any minute, he's saying. Any minute they're going to start jumping.
Arapaima can really pack a punch. Given the choice of being hit by one of these fish or a heavyweight boxer, I'm not sure which I'd choose.
This is a big
É
one.
40 quilos. Olha aqui, 1,40 m.
Look at that.
Having conquered my fears, I head into more remote backwaters to try and catch one of these giants in the wild. I've heard tales of fishermen mysteriously vanishing, leaving nothing more than an empty canoe. Caiman and anaconda generally take the rap, but I think the Arapaima's huge size and explosive temperament are sometimes to blame. Claims of 11-foot specimens that weigh a thumping 500 pounds are widely accepted as reliable. However, with few recent records to go by, the only way I can check these stories is to head deeper into the Amazon, to where there might still be super-sized Arapaima stalking the water. As I travel further upriver, civilization recedes and the forest closes in. Then, in a remote settlement, I find my first tangible evidence that there are still monsters out here.
Believe it or not, this is actually a fish, and this is a big fish.
It's the skin of an Arapaima. And if its scales make you think of a dinosaur, that's because the Arapaima is indeed a dinosaur of sorts. It has swum in these waters virtually unchanged since the Cretaceous period.
That is just a single scale from this animal. I mean, that is pretty impressive, but they go a lot bigger than that, and the reason I know that is that. Now, whatever that came off, that would have been a serious river monster.
I've come here in the dry season when the water level is low and the fish are more concentrated.
One thing that I learned from the tribespeople, which is actually quite hard to do, but I've just got to be patient.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. That's a fish, that's a good fish. Close up. Can see the fish.
The Arapaima is a bone-headed torpedo that's known to go ballistic. But after 20 frenzied minutes, the beast begins to tire.
Precisam jak ogień propega. Right, it's gonna be out. There we go. Alikash, my boss aquí. Oh, look at that, it came out so easily. Take on to.
Yes.
Okay, we're ready. There it is. Look at that for a fish. Look at that. Massive female Arapaima, about 150 pounds.
I finally have the proof in my arms that huge Arapaima are still out here. In time, this one could more than triple in weight.
Go, that's good, that's good, that's good. Look at boom.
That was good. That was the fish just having a breath, which is excellent. It means the fish is not too tired out. But I mean, mainly this fish is just a bony head with a big cylinder of muscle behind it. And if this fish wasn't tired out, I don't think I'd be able to hold it. That's good. No, it's gone. We were just wondering if it had enough strength to go, and no doubt about it, I just couldn't hold it. You know, finally feeling the strength of it. I'm in no doubt now that if you were in a small fishing canoe and that thing hit you underneath, it would easily upend the canoe, and then if you're in the water afterwards and you got on the wrong side of that head, my goodness, that would absolutely take you out.
If an Arapaima packs a punch, then imagine an even bigger fish, perhaps 18 feet long, bursting out of the deep. A beast of such staggering size can only exist if there's a large food supply. But in Alaska's Lake Iliamna, where such giants are said to lurk, there is indeed plenty to eat. Millions of salmon come here every year to spawn and then die, showering the depths with their spent bodies. More than enough food to fatten something into a giant.
I've done most of my monster hunting in the tropics, not the cold subarctic. Lake Iliamna is North America's very own Loch Ness, and rarely have I been so intrigued by tales of a freshwater giant. Ever since the 1940s, when bush pilots began flying over this remote lake, there have been strange sightings of huge dark shapes in the water. Going back even further, the tribal legends of the Aleut tell of an immense creature that brings death in its wake.
People have disappeared out of their boats.
Whatever it was in the water, they were afraid it would just come up and swallow them.
That's where we saw it. What we saw was a 15 to 18 feet long.
It has no fear of taking on boats and their propellers.
Motor prop, you can see teeth marks on it.
So what is this huge and sinister monster? Pilot and town mayor Glenn Allsworth Sr. tells me a chilling story from the 1940s.
A gentleman working for us was trying to catch these large lake trout, but he kept having them break the line. And so being an aircraft mechanic, he got some aircraft cable, which is very, very strong.
The mechanic then fashioned his own hook and fixed it to the end of the cable, which he then tied to a washed-up tree stump.
He knew that he had a line there that fish would not break, and so he decided whatever kind of monster was busting off his line, that wasn't going to happen to him again.
confident that he'd get his fish. This time, he left and planned to come back next morning.
Neighbor that lived by the river observed that stump passing by against the wind in the lake was very rough. And this gentleman that observed this was very surprised that how could this tree stump be moving against the water, against the wind and the waves?
When the weather closes in, the waters are smothered in an eerie fog. The creepy atmosphere is reinforced by local folklore, which says that if you see the monster, a tragedy will soon befall your family. In conditions like these, the brain becomes very suggestible, and it's easy for your mind to play tricks on you.
I actually thought I saw something back there, and I did a real double take, but I think it was just the dark, long face of a wave. And I can really imagine how, if you're out here any amount of time, you know, you're going to see things possibly even if there's nothing there.
I've got to stay detached and not let my imagination get in the way. One clue that may help to solve this mystery lies in the fact that Lake Iliamna is connected to the sea. Flying along its shoreline, I spot some unusual inhabitants.
Just seen some dark specks on a tiny little island down there hauled out on some gravel. And those are freshwater seals. Now this is one of very, very few places in the world where you have seals in fresh water. And it does bring home the fact that although we call this expanse of water a lake, it's just so huge. And if the seals have managed to get in here from the ocean, it does make you wonder what else might have got in as well.
There is one creature I know about from North America's Pacific coast that is big enough to fit the bill, and which can also survive in fresh water. But my chances of finding one of these prehistoric monsters here, in a lake that's vast enough to swallow Loch Ness sideways and which plunges to 1,000 feet deep, are virtually nil.
What we're talking about here is an absolutely immense body of water where nobody has ever caught one, and where the sightings are, you know, they're less than once a year. So to get one on the end of a line, you know, if I had 40, 50 years, I might be in with half a chance, but realistically, it's just not going to happen here.
My chief suspect is a real dinosaur from the deep, but to meet this giant in the flesh, I need to leave Alaska and head down to the Columbia River on the Oregon-Washington border. The move soon pays off. Before I know it, I'm into a big fish that feels unstoppable.
Jack, I think it might help if we cast off. Are we going? Are we on our way? This is a long, long run. We're running out of line here. We're running out of line. We need to go quick. We're on the backing. We're on the backing. That is certainly a big fish. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. If you have a look at this line, this is the backing. That's the end of my line there, off the reel. I want to get the proper line back on the reel. Right, there we are. We've got the line back on the reel here. That was hairy. I was just watching my line going. That line's coming up in the water. There's the fish. There's the fish. There it is. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Ah, I've seen the fish now. That is certainly a big fish.
This is my prime suspect for the Iliamna monster, a giant white sturgeon.
That was a tiring fight. I've caught some big fish in fresh water. This is probably the biggest freshwater fish I've caught.
Every year, these juggernauts steam up rivers to spawn. Is it possible that some once strayed into Lake Iliamna and then took up permanent residence?
About 300 pounds, this one. It's, you know, a real monstrous fish. That's actually 105 or even 106 inches. That's 8 foot 10 inches. Nearly 9 foot. Nearly 9 foot, this fish. It's quite a thought. That's 1.5 times me.
With a mouth like a giant vacuum, a sturgeon sucks its food off the mud. In Lake Iliamna, it would be able to gorge itself on the millions of dead salmon. Multiply this annual feast by a lifespan of 100 years or more, and you have your monster.
This looks big in the water, but these things grow to 20 foot, possibly even more, and I mean, just imagine seeing that in the water. I mean, you could be forgiven for saying that was a monster.
The sturgeon's feeding habits would also explain why it's so rarely seen on Lake Iliamna, because it spends most of its time in up to 1,000 feet of water.
A fish like this lives in a totally different world, perceives its world in a totally different way.
The fact that a sturgeon like this spends most of its time in the dark depths is reflected in its unusual anatomy.
It's actually got very small eyes for such a large animal. Vision doesn't play a very big part in its world. Those 4 feelers near the mouth, that's how it tastes the water. That's how it found the bait, the scent trail coming down the current. That's what led it to my bait.
But what about that story of teeth marks on a propeller? At first glance, it doesn't make sense.
Just take a little look at the mouth here. There's no teeth in there at all. I can put my hands in there.
However, looking closely at this animal, I think I know what might have done the damage.
And what's interesting about a sturgeon, it's got bony plates on the outside of the body, not totally covering it, but just in rows. And these are, some form of protection. They really are, sort of quite tough bits of bone.
I believe that the boat accidentally ran over a basking sturgeon, and that the fish's bony plates caused what looked like teeth marks. Harder to explain were stories of people disappearing from their boats. Until I read reports of another species of sturgeon, the Gulf sturgeon in Florida, leaping out of the water and seriously injuring people. This strange behaviour could be the final piece of the puzzle. Maybe jumping white sturgeon have occasionally landed a knockout blow. No clues would ever survive, because in icy water, a body sinks. All this convinces me that the Alaskan lake monster is in fact a non-seagoing population of white sturgeon. Despite its intimidating size, a sturgeon is not out to eat you. In the heart of Europe, however, lurks a far more sinister giant. According to old accounts, this super heavyweight once reached lengths of 16 feet, and one was even found with a human head inside its stomach. Now, some centuries on, the beast is back. Chronicled since the Middle Ages, this leviathan recently made headlines in Berlin when it attacked swimmers in a lake.
Then there was a wound on my leg, there was blood.
Suddenly, something big bit me.
It's muscling back into its old haunts. And in one river, it's threatening to become a true freshwater terror.
Don't tangle with these guys in their environment.
The Wels catfish is a European predator that can reach a frightening size.
There's one place where I'm going to find out just how big the Wels catfish grows and how potentially dangerous it is. It's here, the Rio Ebro in northern Spain. The fish is introduced, it's been here a little more than 30 years. But in that time, they're catching fish bigger than I am.
In 1974, a German scientist released some Wels catfish into this river. Ever since, they've grown not only in numbers, but also in size. I want to see for myself just how big they can get.
There are 3 reasons why the Wels catfish are growing so big in this river. It's a mixture of man-made and natural. For a start, you've got 3 of these huge dams, and it just means there's so much more water, more space for the fish to live in. On top of that, this water is hot. The fish, being a cold-blooded animal, can just feed and grow for more months of the year than they do in Eastern Europe. This place was stuffed with fish anyway, particularly carp. The anglers are coming in, they're throwing in huge amounts of bait and just sending the whole system into hyperdrive.
But what triggers these fish to attack? I decided to take a high-tech look at this predator's behaviour, and what I saw next was a real surprise.
What we're doing is we're doing something called clonking, and it's sending a sound wave down into the water. And we can see on the sonar...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Direct on your lures.
There he is, tentacles.
Comes back.
Yeah. Right, what's happened now? And it's coming up now, right in the middle of the screen. Fantastic. He's attacking the camera. What this has just demonstrated is that when you've got splashing, when you've got commotion on the surface, the catfish, which, you know, they live on the bottom, they will come up to investigate. There it is! Look at that! This is a first for me, actually seeing a fish attacking a bait, attracted in by sound and vibration. It reminds me of the way piranhas react to a thrashing victim, closing in for the kill. But this fish even has a go at the camera. They're said to reach 8 feet long in this river, but I won't believe it until I've seen it. To increase the chances, we've set up several rods. This is physical stuff. One slip against this heavy weight, and I'm in real trouble. There's the fish. The Wels isn't going to win any beauty contests, but it is an exceptionally powerful fish. The measure of the beast, that is 7 foot 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 foot 4 inches.
Then you open the mouth.
You can actually hear the echo coming out of the mouth there. Hello. And I can see its gullet opening and closing. If I was so inclined, I could put my fist down there quite easily. That is an eating machine. The whole thing is nearly 8 foot of just solid, rippling muscle. If that grabbed hold of your leg, that's an unpleasant enough thought, but if that decided not to let go and you were swimming, you'd be history. Maybe those medieval legends were not so far-fetched. Up to this point in my career, even the toughest battles with the very largest fish had lasted no longer than 30 minutes. Then, I heard about an epic 6-hour struggle to land a monster that in the end was simply too massive to weigh. Incredibly, this Moby Dick of river giants was totally unknown to science until just 20 years ago, even though it lives in crowded waterways right under the noses of millions of people. But the giant freshwater stingray is no ordinary monster. This gargantuan fish from Thailand comes armed with a 10-inch venom-coated bayonet. When fisherman Pung San hooked one of these monsters, rather than cut the line, he decided to try and bring it in. For people here, such a huge fish is a potentially lucrative catch. What happened, the stingray came to the side of the river and then wouldn't come any further, actually basically got buried in the mud. So what he had to do was actually get in the water, and it was about chest deep, and then completely go underwater with a rope, feed the rope through the spiracles, the water intake of the stingray, not the rope. He'd managed to pull it off the bottom, and it was actually as it rose in the water that he then felt this pain. The wound was actually just numb to start with. And then just this incredible pain, and in fact so painful that he collapsed from the intensity of the pain and actually had to crawl the remaining distance to the house. This was something that wasn't going to go away on its own. It did need urgent medical treatment. He may not feel it, but Pung San was lucky. The venom-loaded sting went into his thigh at a shallow angle, and he escaped with his life. he still has the very barb that impaled him. Can I have a look at that? I can't let this weapon deter me from going after a giant ray myself. Right. Well, seeing that really does concentrate the mind. Absolutely vicious point on that and these horrible barbs down the side. But if that had gone in straight and if that had punctured the femoral artery, you know, that could have killed him. This is a fish I've got to really treat with some respect. I leave Bangkok and head 50 miles west to Samut Songkhram. The river here is inhabited by some of the biggest freshwater stingrays in the world. To try and catch one, I've brought a marlin-class rod, rigged with ultra-strong braided line and 30 yards of thick nylon monofilament at the business end. With everything prepped, we head for the chosen spot, a deep pocket in the riverbed known as Area 51, because, as they say round here, it's crawling with aliens. And it's not long before first contact.
It's spinning the boat, it's spinning the boat.
Something powerful swings the boat round, then glues itself to the bottom.
This line shouldn't go. The rod's always a bit of an unknown quantity. Ah! Ah! Just had visions of this rod suddenly shattering and getting a face full of fiberglass and carbon fiber. That's pulling down, that's pulling down. There is quite a real possibility of this thing pulling me in.
It feels like I'm trying to pull the plug out of the bottom of the river. All I can do is dig in and keep the pressure on. But after 30 exhausting minutes, I haven't gained an inch.
Ah. Ah.
This isn't like any fishing I've ever experienced, and I start to wonder if I can cope. With neither of us willing to give in, it becomes a war of attrition.
Just been told it's 1 hour, 5 minutes so far. We're into about round 8 now. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. It's taking line. That is taking line fast. This thing does not like being bullied. I just decided I was going to, show it who's boss. And the fish is saying, no, you're not the boss.
For another 40 minutes, we're locked in an energy-sapping stalemate.
Come on. Right, I've got the initiative. Whoa! Ah!
Then, after nearly 2 hours, a breakthrough.
I think it's come off the bottom. There was a sudden sort of break of suction.
My arms are cramping up and I'm close to my breaking point, but I finally got the measure of this gigantic fish.
It's about 1.5 meters below the surface. Here it comes, here it comes.
I'm just seconds away from seeing what must surely be one of the world's biggest river monsters. I thought it was my shoulder going for a minute, but it was actually the rod.
Not too long, yeah?
Rod's too long. Eventually, after 2 hours, something was off the bottom. We were trying to get the net round it. The rod went, and the fish escaped. It wasn't quite in the net. And to make matters worse, I found out later that the battle had also left me with a snapped tendon. After slugging it out for 2 hours, all I'd got was a tantalizing glimpse of the monster and a permanently weakened right arm. Before going back into battle, I needed to find out as much as I could about my opponent. Dr. Ning from Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok is one of the few people trying to study the giant freshwater stingray. I'm hoping she can help me understand why my tug of war with that monster was like nothing else I've experienced.
Looks like we got some in there. Okay.
This is the stretch of river where I hooked the monster that broke my rod.
Look at that. That's what's on the bottom here.
Thick mud is going to give my quarry a big advantage. they're going to get a very good seal and very good suction.
I now understand why I had such a battle to pull up this animal.
Just imagine that's the stingray. I mean, that actually weighs nothing at the moment. I can lift that easily. And just getting a little bit under the mud. There we go. And I can lift it up. Look at that. Ah. So, if that stingray gets the edges of its wings under the mud, I'm not just trying to lift the stingray, I'm trying to lift the whole bottom of the river.
The stingray has all the advantages. Bringing such a monster safely alongside the boat requires a shorter rod.
Right, it might surface, it might surface, it might surface over there.
After another back-breaking fight, I've finally got a second chance to land one of these otherworldly giants.
It's under the boat now, the fish is under the boat. I don't want to be lifting it while it's under the boat. I think it's coming this way again. Ah, it's just squashing my fingers, it's squashing my fingers. It's gone this way, it's right, gone this way. Okay. See the water boiling there? I haven't seen the fish yet. It's near the surface. I've just actually seen the lead. It's up in the water. I think we've got it. I think we've got it.
Back of the net. We keep well clear of its 10-inch barb and race back to the shore, where a team of scientists is waiting. They are on hand to run tests that will help further our understanding of this animal. But first, Dr. Ning has to secure the barb. Later, she will attempt to collect a sample of venom before releasing the fish. It takes 7 people to heave this huge beast onto its front into a position where we can measure it.
Okay, 180 centimetres to the base of the tail. Okay. Go for the wingspan. 1 metre 91, nearly 2 metres across. 190.
At around 6 feet across and roughly 400 pounds, this female stingray is the largest fish I've ever caught from a river. Then, as I'm still trying to comprehend this strange giant, an extraordinary spectacle.
So we've just got the fish into where the scientific team is. And literally, as we sort of pulled it in the net, it's actually given birth to 2 live young.
Dr. Ning uses ultrasound to see if there are any more babies still inside. This is the first time that scientists have been able to gather information from the fully developed pups of these stingrays.
On the ultrasound, there's the dark line, which is a cavity, and then there is a lighter shape inside it. So apparently that is the baby stingray still inside.
See the baby moving?
I thought I had 1 fish on the end here. It looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, and another one inside. 4 fish, 1 hook.
Like many sharks, stingrays give birth to live young. When they emerged, these babies had what looked like a small cap on their stings, presumably to prevent internal injury to the mother. These safety catches quickly drop off, though. Within moments, the twins are armed and ready to defend themselves. The babies are taken away for tests, but will soon be brought back.
The great thing about these fish here, these 2, is that they are, pretty well fully developed. They might be being born a little bit early, but I think they are definitely going to survive in this river, particularly with that 2-inch prong on their tail. There's not a lot that's going to come near them.
Meanwhile, Dr. Ning turns her attention to the mothership. There is one final sample to extract.
Okay, I'm holding it.
Just be careful.
Right, we're now going to take the toxin. Okay, I'll help you.
By analysing this poisonous slime, scientists may one day discover how the venom works.
If such a huge creature can live undetected for so long, then what other giants may still be hiding in muddy rivers around the world? After coming briefly out of the shadows, this mysterious monster is reunited with her babies and set free.
There he goes, under the boat.
Hello. Bye.
So there she goes. I think she's probably going to go back to all her friends with all these stories of alien abduction. You know, they did experiments on me and all sorts. But personally, I feel like I'm the one who's seen the alien. I mean, just what an amazing, totally unfish-like fish. I mean, a real monstrous beast. These catches are some of the biggest fish it's possible to find in fresh water. 5 monsters with a combined weight of well over half a ton. But do I think this is the end of the story? Even after catching these giants, I've come across others that I never knew existed. And even now, I'm busy planning new adventures to wild and dangerous rivers. Perhaps the biggest is still to come.